Hi, it is me again, Adam, from the John and Adam pair. And as I'm sure you remember from our last video, we talked about the creation of our 10 embryos. Very exciting. And at the end of that, we had pieces of those embryos, biopsied pieces, sent off for PGT-A testing. And so we've now gotten those test results, which is very exciting. Um, First off, though, what is PGT-A testing for? Well, primarily it's testing for chromosomal abnormalities, either in the amount of chromosomes, whether there's too many or too few, or perhaps if some chromosomes are way too big or too small, which maybe some other things as well. But primarily, it's testing for the numbers of chromosomes. And in what is considered normal, you would expect 23 pairs of chromosomes, 46 in total. One of each pair would come from, of course, the egg, and one of each pair would come from the sperm. And then the 23rd pair is referred to as the sex chromosomes because either you'll get an XX for female or XY for male. And it turns out it is the sperm that carries the X or Y chromosome, so it is the sperm that determines the sex of the embryo. So this is what we're hoping for, a euploid with 23 pairs of chromosomes, all looking as they should. Now, what can happen sometimes is that you get trisomy. Trisomy means there's an extra copy of a chromosome. So in this case, we see here we have trisomy 10, so 3 copies of chromosome 10. Another issue could be monosomy. Monosomy means that it's missing a copy of a chromosome. So in this case, we see that there's monosomy 21. So it's missing one of the copies for chromosome 21. And so this embryo referred to as aneuploid. It is abnormal in the number of chromosomes in some way. Most of the time, when you have significant chromosomal abnormalities where you're missing an entire chromosome or you have an extra chromosome, then that embryo will perhaps not implant, but will probably not be viable. So most of the time, when you have a significant difference in the number of chromosomes, it'll be a non-viable embryo. It will not, it'll probably miscarry really early on. Turns out a significant number of miscarriages in the first trimester is caused by chromosomal abnormalities. However, as we know, there are a few aneuploid embryos that can lead to a baby, a child, someone who can grow and lead a full adult life. So, for instance, trisomy 21, if there's 3 copies of chromosome 21, that can lead to Down syndrome. And of course, another example for monosomy, monosomy X, where there's one X and no second sex chromosome, could lead to Turner syndrome. Again, these would be embryos that are considered aneuploidy but could lead to a viable offspring. So, my test results. Well, as you remember before, my embryos were graded, 4 lovely embryos, 4 AAs and a 4AB. The double A's are considered a little more likely to be successful in implantation and pregnancy. So they get a slight bump, slight bonus, but of course we got all of them tested. And from the PGT-A results, we see that all 4 of the embryos are euploids, so they have the 23 pairs of chromosomes, 46 in total. And since they're looking at chromosomes, they also can determine the sex of the embryo. And you can see all 3 of my double A's are XY, so all 3 of my double A's would produce a baby boy. And since there is a slight statistical advantage to the double A's, when it comes time to select an embryo for implantation, I will randomly choose one of these 3 embryos unless the fertility clinic suggests a specific one, but based on this information, I suspect they will be happy with any of the 1 through 3. And then there's John's results. As you remember, John had 6 embryos, mostly 4A's and 4B's, which are all really good. Also a 4CB, which is a little more questionable, but still has the potential, if implanted, to produce an offspring. So got the PGT-A results, and we see that 5 of the 6 are euploid, so have the 46 chromosomes as expected, and but one of them, number 2, was aneuploid. Specifically, it had an extra copy of chromosome 13 and is missing a copy of chromosome 14, which means that this embryo is completely inviable. It might not implant, and it would definitely not lead to any sort of offspring. It would miscarry early on. So John has the 3 double A's, all of them healthy and euploid, and 2 of them are XX and 1 is XY, so 2 female embryos, 1 male embryo. So when it comes time for him to select an embryo for implantation, he'll randomly choose from these 3 embryos, which means that we have a 1/3 chance of, if all goes well, ending up with 2 male babies, and 2/3 chance, if everything goes well, with a male and a female baby. Pretty exciting. As always, like any company and any stage of the fertility process, there's the disclaimer. So the company states that based on the technology, the accuracy rate is greater than 97%. No testing method can guarantee a chromosomal normal offspring. So there's their disclaimer. Nothing's perfect in this world. You may wonder, well, how could something be wrong? Well, to be honest, I don't know the different ways that something could be wrong. The one thing I do know about is that it is possible for a embryo to be a mosaic, which means some of the cells are chromosomally normal and some of the cells are chromosomally abnormal. So if they do a biopsy and just take a few cells, they might only get the normal, the euploid cells, and so mistakenly think that the embryo is completely euploid or normal. Again, if you want more information about this sort of thing, you should visit this great site down here. And that is it for my little bit on our results, very exciting results. And please be sure to subscribe and like.